Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the Eagle Staff.
March on, Eagle Staff!
Please remain standing for the arrival of the Commander of the Canadian Army, Lieutenant General Paul, with the Canadian Army Sergeant Major, Chief Warrant Officer Robin. Please remain standing for the arrival of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Eyre, with Lieutenant General Wright, and with the Canadian Armed Forces Chief Warrant Officer McCain. Mesdames et messieurs, please remain standing for our national anthem. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez rester debout pour l'hymne national. Veuillez vous asseoir. I now invite the Indigenous advisors to the Canadian Army Commander, Master Warrant Officer Rob Brown, and Master Warrant Officer Sheldon Quinn, who will deliver the land acknowledgement.
As we move forward in our journey toward reconciliation, we'd like to begin by acknowledging that the lands on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We should recognize and appreciate their historic connections to this land as the original stewards.
Hélos, que nous évoquons dans notre voyage vers la réconciliation. Nous aimerons commencer par reconnaître que la terre sur laquelle nous exemple constitue le territoire traditionnel non-cédé du peuple algonquin Anishinaabe. Nous devrons reconnaître et apprécier leurs lignes historiques avec ces terres étant que si première identité. Merci.
Thank you, Master Warrant Officer. J'invite maintenant l'aumônier de l'Armée canadienne à dire quelques mots.
Good morning. I invite you to join with me in a brief moment of reflection. Today, as we gather to mark this milestone in the history and the life of the Canadian Army, it is yet one more opportunity to give thanks for the privilege of being called and trusted to serve Canada as members and supporters of the Canadian Army. Pour notre commandant sortant, le lieutenant général Paul, nous lui sommes reconnaissants du leadership, de la sagesse et des soins qu'il a prodigués au cours des dernières années. Nous reconnaissons que son engagement envers l'armée et les forces armées canadiennes au cours des 33-35 années a exigé des sacrifices. Sir, you have served Canada before self. Merci, mon général, d'avoir toujours défendu les choses qui comptent. Pour l'excellence et la connaissance, pour la diversité et l'inclusion, pour la famille et les amis. May your retirement provide you with many new adventures that you can share with your wife, Lynn, and your family. Today, our thoughts are with Lieutenant General Wright as he takes on the role of Commander of the Canadian Army. With the support of those who are gathered here today, the many more who join us in spirit, and most importantly, with the support of his wife, Hillary, children, and family. Recognizing that this new role will bring its own challenges, and I would also add blessings, sir, may you have wisdom in the decisions you make, courage when faced with challenges and obstacles, the strength to endure the many, many daily tasks, and the patience in dealing with those who are under your command. May each one of us serving in the Canadian Army recognize the great responsibility that has been placed on you by those in higher authority, and in turn may we each dedicate to you our loyalty, our diligence, our best. May the torch that has been passed today continue to illuminate the path to building a professional fighting force worthy of the confidence of Canadians and capable of meeting any mission that it is called to undertake. May this all be so.
Merci pour ces mots. I would now like to invite the Commander of the Canadian Army, Lieutenant Général Paul, à s'adresser à l'auditoire. Merci beaucoup.
Lots of emotion. Kwewiti, Kwinwizewan, bonjour. Good morning, everybody. Sénateur Patterson, chef Gros Louis de la Première Nation Huron-Wendat, chef Bacon et chef Riverain Volant de la Première Nation des Inuits de Pessamit, mon général, Madame, Monsieur McCann, Madame Beck, sous-ministre à la Défense nationale, Madame Kim, sous-ministre associé, Général Carignan, notre futur chef d'état-major de la Défense nationale, Lieutenant-général Hallen, Fran, content d'avoir avec nous. Ancien commandant de l'armée canadienne, Gopher colleagues, Colonel Hindle, honoraries, Monsieur Smith, Monsieur Robin, adjudant-chef, assistant deputy ministers, mentors, membres de l'armée canadienne, Mr. Brown, Mr. Quinn, my two Indigenous advisors, defense attachés, dear friends, membres de ma famille. Bienvenue à tous. I am honored and humbled to be here today with every single one of you. Cette journée est très, très, très spéciale pour moi et puis pour ma famille. I'm spending my last moment as an Army member, and I am about to retire from that institution that I love so much. Jeune Eyre, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the support, for the opportunity, and thank you for having led the CAF during that turbulent time. Madame Beck, defense colleagues, thank you for your friendship and your collegial mindset. Jenny, bonne chance dans ton mandat. Toute l'armée canadienne est derrière toi. On est fiers de toi. Formation Command Teams, Army HQ colleagues, personal staff. I may have been sometimes a bit difficult, tough, demanding, parfois peut-être un petit peu trop énergisé et surtout un petit peu difficile le matin, avant mon deuxième café. But I was trying to convey to every single one of you a sense of urgency. En cette ère de conflits multiples, de crises multiples, en cette ère de désinformation, où les agressions sont maintenant monnaie courante, we need to pay attention to what's going on around the world. You've heard me saying many times, if you want to have a new idea, read an old book. But I'm looking at what's going on right now around the world, and I really feel like human beings always repeating the same mistakes. Je regarde ce qui se passe présentement sur la scène internationale et ça ressemble étrangement à ce qui se passait dans les années 30. Et je crois que tous les Canadiens se doivent de porter attention à ce qui se passe présentement. Nos prédécesseurs ont reconstruit un ordre mondial nouveau sur les ruines de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. On a mis en place des institutions internationales et multilatérales afin d'empêcher qu'un autre conflit international commence en Europe. Eh bien, malheureusement, on a amené la guerre aux portes de l'Europe. Ukraine has been attacked twice by Russia. Colleagues, we need to acknowledge that authoritarian leaders and theocratic leaders are openly attacking our lifestyle, eroding our values and influence. Diplomacy has failed to contain Russia. We Westerners, we value the open press and information, but our competitors are using disinformation and trolls to mislead our fellow citizens. Economic sanctions didn't contain Russia. Colleagues, these dictators are not really interested by diplomacy. Where we see compromise, they see weakness. Where we see investment, they see an opportunity to take control over global supply chains. We promote the importance of a rule-based order. They want to tear it apart. Great competition, great power is back. And in that day and age of aggression, hard power matters. Allies and adversaries are no longer judging us on what we say. They're judging us on what we do and what we bring to the table. So obviously, like everybody here, I was delighted yesterday to hear the good news coming out from Washington. This is fantastic. I'm super happy to see, that the Royal Canadian Air Force has basically re-equipped itself. I'm delighted to see that steel has been cut for the new frigates. Super happy to see that we're having a strategic discussion about submarines. And as always, our special forces are delivering in the shadows, delivering excellence. CJOC continue de mener avec brio nos opérations domestiques et expéditionnaires. Guidé par CMP, on se focus sur la rétention, sur le recrutement. Et avec CPCC, on a fait des progrès remarquables en termes de culture. And we in the Army, we've worked tirelessly to force generate and design that brigade in Latvia. And dear friends, chers amis, since the 3rd of July, Canada once again is leading a brigade in Europe. Énormément de travail a été accompli par nos réguliers, nos réservistes, et on a toujours nos rangers ici au Canada qui sont prêts à aider leurs concitoyens. But we are first and foremost a people-driven organization. And you've heard me many times, colleagues, saying that the Army is the largest service by far, because obviously I'm proud of my team. But all of us should be proud of our team. We need, colleagues, mass. We need to have talented people ready to stand up for our values. And we got to keep in mind that most of the time, the outcome of any human conflict is determined on the ground. And Ukraine is the best example of that. Yes, we need people, but we need capabilities. We need to be able to deter, and we need to be able to stand up in front of any of our opponents. And the Army has really stood up. As we speak right now, we have 1,400 of our regular and reserve soldiers that are currently deployed around the world. And that number is going to keep growing over the next few months. Et ici, à la maison, on a des milliers de soldats qui sont prêts à répondre à l'appel advenant qu'on doive aider nos concitoyens. If you want to have a healthy army, you need to have a healthy reserve. I was so proud when I was being told that this year alone, for the reserve, we have hired 2,986 new soldiers. The Army Reserve has grown by more than 300 people this year. And we need to speak about it in that day and age, of negativity. But there's some great news out there. We've also energized our Indigenous program. Obviously, I have a bit of an interest into it. Mais nous allons donner des opportunités à nos jeunes Autochtones de peut-être avoir une carrière au sein des Forces armées canadiennes, s'ils le désirent. On a une population qui explose dans nos communautés. Beaucoup de ces familles vont devoir mettre du pain sur la table et ils ont beaucoup à nous apporter. A few good stories here. For the first time ever, we had a reserve brigade employed as the lead mounting formation for an expeditionary operation. 32 CBG in Toronto has put together, the last deployment to Iraq. That is fantastic. Nos unités d'infanterie légère ont été projetées à de multiples reprises au cours des 2 dernières années, partout à travers le monde. And all of that was made possible because of our number one asset, our men and women in uniform. These Canadian soldiers are delivering in every circumstances. They're the one carrying the flag abroad. They're the ones standing for our values. They make us proud. And we need to continue to work to offer them the best service condition possible. And I know that Lise and her team are charging on that file here. As a G7 nation, we are blessed with resources and human talent. And we certainly have a moral obligation to give the tools to our soldiers so that they can get the job done. And lots of new resources have been allocated over the last 2 years to our institution. This is great. The list can be extremely long. I'm going to try to keep it tight. But the one thing that we got to keep in mind, colleagues, is that if you don't have weaponry and if you don't have ammunition, you are not deterring anybody. You're just telling yourself a nice story. And actually, even Minister Blair was crystal clear about it. He said the world has changed and continues to change, and we must do more. And yes, colleague, all of us in that room, we need to do more. And we are doing more. Russia has put its economy on a war footing. That's the reality. So, chers amis, nous sommes dans une course au réarmement présentement. Western democracies have to catch up. We need to increase our strategic depth. We need to fill up the shelves. We all need to embrace a sense of urgency. Policy and money is just a starting point. But we soldiers and we public servants, we need to transform resources and direction into action. Immediate action now. Et je suis très heureux de vous annoncer qu'avec nos collègues du bureau du sous-ministre adjoint au matériel, oui, on a mis en branle des projets de grande envergure. Command and Control System for Latvia. In today's day and age, you need to connect sensors with effectors. You need to be agile, nimble. You need to protect your people. You got to be lethal. Air defense systems and anti-tanks missile are about to show up in Latvia. Instructors are being trained right now. Counter-UAV systems are going to be fielded at the end of this summer. This is great news. And there's more to come. Logistic vehicles. Armored combat support vehicles are being distributed right now. Loitering munition, short-range, air defense, battery, and anti-tank missile, more anti-tank missiles are underway. And the next bound that I recommended to Mike and the team, the next bound is self-propelled artillery and assault bridging assets. We got to keep in mind, though, that the 1 brigade in Latvia is only one of the many brigades that the Army has. We have 4 more Reg Force brigade to equip. We have 10 more reserve brigade to equip. And that's why we were so much energized at moving forward so many capital programs. Joint fire modernization, night vision system, engineer vehicle, logistic vehicle, and so on and so forth. Pistols, night vision systems, ATVs, UAVs, name it all. We will expedite over the next few months the replacement of the Arctic vehicles. We got to do it now. We eventually will need to replace our APCs, our LAVs, our tanks. And we got to keep buying drone and more drone and counter-drone system. Au cours des 2 dernières années, on a optimisé notre système d'instruction individuelle. John, il reste encore beaucoup de travail à faire. We also optimized the collective training system. And now we are training in Europe so that we can deter Russia even more. That was the right thing to do. Ammo, fuel, spare parts, colleagues, keep working on these critical items. The future of warfare is happening right now in Eastern Europe. Keep paying attention to it. There's nowhere to hide. Between 50 feet and 400 kilometers, anybody can be seen. Embrace change. Don't push back, just embrace it. And we'll get there. And by the way, our younger soldiers, they get it. They get it. Tout au long de ma carrière, partout où je suis allé, les gens voulaient avoir des Canadiens dans leurs états-majors. Arrêtons de se sous-estimer. Nous sommes bons, nous sommes talentueux. Les gens veulent de nous partout à travers le monde parce qu'on a un talent humain qui est extraordinaire, qui est remarquable. Et en parlant de talent humain, j'aimerais peut-être ici souligner quelques camarades qui ont eu un impact important sur moi au cours des dernières années. Malheureusement, je ne peux pas nommer tout le monde, je m'en excuse à l'avance. Monsieur Smith, you've been a fantastic command team partner. We didn't have to say anything. We were just looking at one another without talking, and we knew what would have to be done. Monsieur Robin, bonne chance. My 2 deputies, Conrad and PK, well, thank you for everything you've done, optimizing resources so that we can move forward, with the Army program. Stéphane, bonne chance. Ça va très bien aller, j'ai aucun doute dans mon esprit. We had, so much talent with the Chief of Staffs. So much. Josh, Wade, André, John. I mean, thank you for enabling us all the time. Et un merci spécial à André, mon ami de toujours. On n'avait pas besoin de jouer à cachette. On se connaît, ça fait plus de 35 ans. mais André a certainement été le cerveau derrière plusieurs de nos initiatives. On va profiter du bon temps. Chers amis, donc, on laisse l'armée entre d'excellentes mains. Mike, Monsieur Robin, I mean, you are the perfect leaders to keep moving our beloved institution in the right direction. I wish you success, and I know that you will have success. And you will bring our army to a higher level. I have no doubt whatsoever. Et permettez-moi peut-être de dire quelques mots finalement à ma famille. Lynn, merci d'être à mes côtés depuis 40 ans. Chouademadan Vidémouche. Marie-Ève, William, merci d'avoir supporté papa. Hein? On a fait énormément de sacrifices tous les quatre ensemble. Vous m'avez surtout supporté. Mais là, c'est rendu à mon tour de peut-être aider un petit peu plus et d'être un peu plus présent auprès de vous. Je vous aime énormément. Membres de ma famille de Wendake, ma grande sœur est ici, ma petite sœur, mon petit frère sont en ligne, mon beau-frère, la famille de Pessamit, les amis d'enfance de Québec, les amis qui étaient avec moi au sein de la réserve La Régulière. Merci pour votre présence. Mes beaux-parents, 10 heures de route, avec mon beau-frère, ma belle-sœur, pas facile, je l'apprécie énormément. Donc, moi et Lynn, on va arrêter de passer comme un coup de vent. C'est ça qu'on a fait depuis maintenant 35 ans. On va être un petit peu plus présent. On va essayer de ne pas être trop envahissant. Et puis, encore une fois, merci de votre présence. Ça me touche énormément. Merci à tous. Merci de votre présence. Thank you.
Merci. Merci, mon général. J'aimerais inviter le beau-père du lieutenant-général Paul, M. Jean-Marie Bacon et M. Jérôme Bacon, à s'adresser à l'auditoire.
Boga dat nog het tiek. Die show dat ook niet aan hem hoorde. Dat hem toch aan. De gelato dano, en schat dano te gaan met ze wan. Even de laat ze wan. We shamano. Shedlot. Dat je best nou iemand lo. Maar dat je me toch had. Dat je me de belge sno ze wan. Aku sebel dat je dotan. Daar moment is. Vertel daar ons gewoon. Dan denk ik zo. Smaken is katswoord dat stationalo. Hoe dit dat ook. Ons mohamans. De ronde wordt mest die vertel daar wat. Kende wordt me het want die toch gedaan dat dit die wordt man. Ze gewoon een gasto gaan genil. Hoe smaken de belden. We ham royan. De diepste man ze gewoon. 제주 조치도 내려가 있어도 내가 나온 일로 메시지로 와도 딱 야바도 하다나노 와하다나노 제주 이단 배주한 조치온 에물왓 제지지스타인 제지지스타블 내정원 목실만 지나고 애고셔고 那个烂蛋的米那问题，我们进军上部进一么多钱，我被说也不进苗那个烂我喜欢我，我们这说是，干出的嘛都给苗路，我们这大不样子，这今天很好，这弄怎么？该说好一下到，该说些说到，那怎么？kan de belangrijkheid Mr. Gatineau, hebben ze gemeten. Toen die mensen het zo doen, wat ze willen, de dikke toch zeggen. En wanneer het beleid met ons gaan. Hoe dat we na die was goed, Gatineau. Die master mooie dans en rajon. Die ma babel stabiel zijn. Es was bij die winnen de was goed die mij door de stad. Als je me na die gaat, voor ze gaan bij die zo de spelen. Ik roep voor de mannen ga voor het zwaai dat. We hebben ga voor spelen we dat dan gaat zwaai met. Ik ga weer besteden mannen die schouwen. Die rood voor een gaat goed, kan ze goed die mij. Als die door zien met toe ja toen gaan we na. We hebben dan aan de gaan toon zien door dat. Je zoekt de calvaire kan het bien die mij. Alors, nous je résume un peu ce que j'ai dit en français, parce qu'on m'a demandé si en arrivant de venir faire une prière au Créateur. Et puis, c'est toujours un plaisir pour moi, parce que c'est une chose qu'on en voit souvent dans nos communautés, quand il y a des affaires importantes, discussions, rencontres avec le gouvernement, rencontres avec le conseil de bande et tous les membres. Chaque fois, on demande à un aîné de venir dire un mot et puis de dire une prière afin que toute cette réunion-là qu'on a, très importante, qui envoie l'esprit en haut pour qu'on puisse prendre de très bonnes décisions pour l'ensemble des communautés. I would like to say something in English because, but I ask you, would help me. Because my English is very poor. I learned English in school at 9th grade, and I know a few words to see. Because our community up north, Quebec and North Shore, I don't any change to practice English. All people in our region speak only French. Alors, so, excuse me, see if I make fault sometime. And I pray for all the people right here for have a strong, like the soldier are strong in the mission overseas. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous. Alors, il m'a été demandé, moi, de venir interpréter un chant traditionnel avec le Tewagen, qui est un objet sacré pour la nation Innu. Généralement, le Tewagen était sorti pour célébrer les belles récoltes, pour assurer la subsistance des Inuits. de nos familles, de nos communautés, célébrer les belles récoltes avec l'ensemble de l'œuvre, parce que lorsqu'on était à la chasse, on déployait tous nos efforts pour survivre en territoire. Et le Tewagen était un moyen de communication pour savoir où se trouvait celui qui représente un symbole de notre identité culturelle, le caribou. Alors, je vais chanter un chant. Je ne vous demanderai pas de danser parce que ce n'est pas tout le monde qui sait danser le makusham, mais je vais faire résonner le Tewagen ici même pour le bénéfice de tous et pour l'ensemble de l'œuvre de la carrière de Jocelyn, qui achève là, une carrière de plus de 35 ans, 36 ans. Alors, il souhaitait entendre un chant au Tewagen, chose que je n'ai pas pu refuser, évidemment, malgré ma timidité. Alors, je vais vous chanter un chant au Tewagen, un chant d'un grand chasseur, M. Barnabé Vachon, qui est un grand chasseur Innu, un des derniers joueurs au tambour à avoir été sur le territoire pour pratiquer le mode de vie Innu. Alors, je vais y aller comme ceci. Goji olno magum nilo ma goji olno magum nilo ma trem la no ya goji olno magum nilo ma goji olno magum nilo ma que je pecaso yana go que je pecaso yana mago trem la no ya Manashkolu magnilo, manashkolu magnilo, ma trem lagunoia. Goji olno magnilo, ma goji olno magnilo, ma trem lagunoia. Goji olno magnilo, ma goji olno magnilo, ma que je pecaso yan mago, que je pecaso yan mago, trem l'endagnoia, trem l'endagnoia, trem l'endagnoia. Jusqu'à maintenant, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Merci, M. Bacon, pour ces mots et cette prestation. The Commander's Driver, Caporal Bégin, will now present to Lieutenant General Paul with the Commander of the Canadian Army pennant. The ADC will now present flowers to Lieutenant General Paul's spouse. We will now commence with the signing of the scrolls. I will invite General Eyre, Lieutenant General Paul, and Lieutenant General Wright to come up on the stand. Lieutenant-Général Paul. Merci, Lieutenant-Général Wright. I will now invite the Chief of the Defense Staff, General Eyre, to address the audience.
Bonjour tout le monde. C'est fantastique de voir tout le monde ici et sur ligne. As I look around the audience, I see so many familiar and friendly faces. Merci beaucoup pour être ici. So, Senator Patterson, Associate Deputy Minister Kim, Chiefs, General Carignan, we will continue with our handover after this. Chief McCann, Honorary Colonel Hindo of the Army, friends and family, and it's great to see so many family members here. And last but certainly not least, members of the Canadian Army. So today we pay tribute to two highly distinguished officers who have served throughout their career with great character, competence, and commitment. Two officers who have led in combat, led in hotspots around the world, and led the institution back here in Canada. Two officers who have built remarkable careers within the Canadian Armed Forces. And I know there's been some delay in getting to this date today, so I want to thank all of you for your flexibility and your patience. You know, I've been to countless change of command ceremonies like this one. Each one is deeply meaningful in its own way. But the Canadian Army has a special place in my heart, and for me it is quite the honor to be up here to preside over this ceremony. Because it's an institution that's played a central role in my life. You know, ever since I put on the uniform of an Army cadet at age 12, and several years later being the commander of the Army. Okay, more than several years. But it has got that special part in my soul, in my heart. But moreover, it has always played a central role in the profession of arms in Canada, defending and advancing who we are as a country and who we wish to become. From the trenches of the First World War in Vimy Ridge, to the beaches of Normandy, where we just commemorated the 80th anniversary, to the mountains of Afghanistan, where so many of us served, from Korea to Latvia and beyond. Members of the Canadian Army have shown remarkable and unshakable skill and resolve, like a rock amid the current. Dans les moments les plus sombres, génération après génération de soldats ont répondu à l'appel. Ils ont affronté les dangers avec conviction. Ils y ont laissé sur sueur et leur sang, et trop souvent leur vie. J'ai eu le privilège de rencontrer des membres de notre armée aux quatre coins du Canada et partout dans le monde, et de servir à leur côté. Leur intégrité, leur professionnalisme et leur engagement profond à l'égard de notre mission m'emplissent de fierté et d'espoir. I am immensely grateful for all the work that you do. I am grateful to have served with you and to have led you. I certainly don't need to tell anyone here that Canada's Army mission has taken on a new sense of urgency. And General Paul's comments have covered that quite well. We live in a world of turmoil and disruption, a world where tyrants like Vladimir Putin seek to replace liberal democracy with authoritarian rule, and who see freedom and human dignity as threats to be put down. In this era of renewed geopolitical competition, hard power remains the greatest deterrent we have. And Joe, I think you looked at my speech before yours. This means the commitment and the capability to put boots on the ground when we need them, to demonstrate that we have skin in the game, to reassure and to deter, to fight and to win. Hard power and deterrence require excellence, consistency, and leadership. All three traits that General Paul has exemplified as the commander of the Canadian Army, and indeed throughout his entire career, and more so, and you saw it up here with the passion that he has brought to leading our soldiers at every level. He served as a platoon commander in Croatia and a battle group commander in Kandahar. He commanded the Counter-Improvised Explosive Device Task Force, aimed at saving lives, the Canadian Maneuver Training Center, aimed at getting our troops ready for operations, the 4th Canadian Division and Joint Task Force Central, as well as Task Force Jerusalem, where he sought to bring peace to the Middle East. He was our Director General, International Security Policy. And also, most recently, he served as the Deputy Commander of NATO's Allied Joint Force Command in Naples, Italy. As Army Commander, General Paul has worked tirelessly to ensure our soldiers have the equipment and the capabilities they need to do what we're asking of them. He has had a laser-like focus on increasing the Army's lethality. He's been instrumental in force generation of the Canada-led NATO battle group in Latvia and the planning and execution of its scale up to a combat-capable brigade, showcasing Canada's leadership on the world stage. And ladies and gentlemen, just 21 hours ago, I was in a bilat with our Prime Minister and the President of Latvia down at the Leaders Summit in Washington, and there was nothing but extreme praise for what Canada and the Canadian Army have done in Latvia, leading the way. And that same sentiment was relayed around the NAC, around the NATO, the North Atlantic Council, with all world leaders. And Joe, what you and the Army team have done have shown NATO what can be done and what right looks like. And in doing so, you have cultivated stronger relations with our NATO allies. You have led the way in generating troops to train Ukrainian armed forces. And those troops, when I talk to them, they tell me it's the most meaningful thing they have ever done. So, Joe, what you have done is you have mobilized, you have generated those who stand on the front line of freedom, and the world is a better place for it. Plus près de chez nous, le général Paul a incarné le principe d'une même armée, si crucial à l'intégration et la réussite de nos forces. Il a contribué à rendre l'entraînement plus efficace. Il a amélioré la culture de l'armée en mettant l'accent sur le respect et la dignité de tous ceux et celles qui servent. Celui qui est devenu le premier commandant autochtone de l'armée a pleinement endossé son rôle de champion des peuples autochtones de l'équipe de la défense. Il a démarré une source d'inspiration. You have truly set the example. But now, after 36 years of dedicated, committed service, General Paul will be retiring. Joe, thank you for your exemplary commitment to the Canadian Army and to Canada. You are truly a great Canadian. May your retirement be filled with things you love: hunting, fishing, and family, and not necessarily in that order. So I know firsthand that commanding the Army is a tremendous responsibility, and it's also a great honor. And that's why I'm so pleased to see that General Wright is going to be taking the reins. Now, General Wright has spent the last 3 years as the commander of Canadian Forces Intelligence Command. Now there, as we talked about on Monday as he gave up command, he spent the last 3 years providing crucial intelligence and operational support during a time of perhaps unprecedented crises, all the while modernizing how we gather intelligence and how the defense intelligence enterprise works. Now, those efforts at institutional reform will serve him extremely well in this new role as he returns to his home in the Army. Now, General Wright is one of our few senior officers who has served in all 3 of our mechanized brigades and he's deployed with all 3 regular force infantry regiments. So he knows this Army from coast to coast to coast. Il a la réputation bien méritée de favoriser le partenariat et la collaboration avec nos alliés à l'étranger. Il est l'un de nos vétérans de combat les plus décorés et l'un de nos dirigeants les plus respectés. Il a participé à des déploiements en Afghanistan, en Bosnie et au Moyen-Orient. He served at the Canadian Army headquarters, as well as CJOC and in the office of one of my predecessors. He is ready for this role. Mike, the tasks before you are significant. You must, and I'm going to give you a task list here, so hopefully somebody's writing this down. You got to continue to reconstitute the Army. You're getting the trained, effective strength of both our regular and reserve force up to establishment, and be prepared to grow beyond that. And as you heard with the announcement yesterday, more things to come. Now, this means a laser focus on recruiting and retention, and to continue the momentum that we already have. You got to rebuild readiness, especially with equipment serviceability. Again, more good news is coming. Ensure we can sustain the multinational brigade level deployment to Latvia and continue to train Ukrainian troops to defend their country against Russian brutality, while at the same time being able to respond to fast-breaking contingencies around the world and here at home, whether it be conducting NEO operations or responding to floods and fires. You've got to increase our Arctic focus, as articulated in our defense policy update. You've got to force develop and deliver new capabilities with a sense of urgency. You need to press relentlessly to cut the Gordian knot of bureaucracy that impedes getting combat capabilities into the hands of our troops. And most importantly, you must get the Army ready to fight. We hope that's not going to be necessary, but the arc of history has shown us that we are either at war or in an interwar period. And so, Mike, I've just given you a pretty significant to-do list, and I'm sure General Carignan is going to add to it. These are no small tasks, but I know that you and the Army are up to this role. So congratulations, Mike. I wish you the great success, and I know the Army is in excellent hands. You know, of course, leadership of this kind is not and does not belong to one person alone. It takes the support of those around them. And critically, it takes the support of countless family and friends. Few know the intense demands of sacrifice better than military families do. Every one of us who puts on the uniform owes a debt of gratitude to our loved ones. And I can see by the number of family members here in attendance that both Generals Wright and Paul are well loved and supported. So to General Paul's family here today, Lynn, Marie-Ève, William, merci beaucoup pour être ici. And General Wright's family, Hillary, Henry, Jonas, Linda, Peter, and Elizabeth, thank you so much as well for being here. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Merci beaucoup pour votre soutien. Lynn, profitez pleinement de cette retraite bien méritée. Et je vous souhaite à toi et Joe tout le meilleur pour le prochain chapitre de votre vie. Merci beaucoup pour votre service. Now today, Generals Paul and Wright will take their place in that storied tradition of our Army among those who've commanded this great institution. Those, and many of you are here today, and it's fantastic to see you here in this audience. But thank you both for your unwavering commitment and integrity, for your remarkable service to our great country. General Wright, the command is yours. Merci beaucoup. Miigwech. Thank you.
Sorry. J'aimerais inviter le commandant de l'armée canadienne à s'adresser pour la première fois, le lieutenant-général Wright, à l'auditoire.
Mesdames et Messieurs, honored guests, members of the Canadian Army family across the country. It's quite something to be here today, especially when I think back to July 1994. At this time, I was in the final weeks of my Infantry Phase 4 training in Gagetown, New Brunswick, getting ready to be posted to the 2nd Battalion PPCLI in Winnipeg. As I look back 30 years, I'm trying to figure who would be more surprised that I'm here today taking command of the Canadian Army. My Phase 4 course officers, my 1st Company Commander, or 2nd Lieutenant Wright. And I think the answer is probably all of the above. Mais vraiment, je suis ici grâce au leadership, mentorat et soutien incroyable que j'ai reçu pendant toutes ces années. De Winnipeg à Valcartier, de Shiloh à Kingston, d'Edmonton à Petawawa, on exercises and operations around the world, I am grateful to every officer, senior NCO, and fellow member of the Canadian Armed Forces who has given me the tools, the skills, the examples of leadership, and collective lessons on the importance of service that have helped develop me into the leader I am today. And I'm honored that so many of those people who have influenced me throughout my career are here today, both in person and online. I'm grateful to those who have entrusted me with this great responsibility. To the Chief of the Defence Staff, General Eyre, General Carillon, and all members of Armed Forces Council Executive, and to Minister Blair, thank you for your confidence. I'd like to add that over the last decade in particular, I've benefited from the collaboration and support of many public service defense team leaders and from those in the wider national security and intelligence community, and I look forward to continuing that collaboration in the future. And I'm equally grateful to all the family and friends who have supported me from the time I joined in 1990 and who have supported Hillary, Henry, and Jonas as we've moved across the country. And particularly Hillary, Henry, and Jonas, thank you for your love and support and for keeping me grounded. To Henry and Jonas, this is going to be a really busy job, and I'm going to need your support more than ever for my fantasy football team. As Chief Warrant Officer Robin and I step into the very large shoes of Mr. Smith and Lieutenant General Paul, I'd like to acknowledge and thank them both for their remarkable service, leadership, and vision over the past several years. Gentlemen, je vous souhaite à vous deux, ainsi qu'à vos familles, tout ce qu'il y a de meilleur alors que vous prenez votre retraite des Forces armées canadiennes, et sachez que vous êtes toujours les bienvenus ici à l'armée. Lieutenant General Paul, in addition to becoming the Army Commander, I also take on the responsibility of the Defense Team Champion for Indigenous people. I truly appreciated the time we spent together earlier this week with Master Warrant Officer Rob Brown and Master Warrant Officer Sheldon Quinn, the Canadian Army Indigenous Advisors. I take this important role very seriously, and Chief Warrant Officer Robin and I look forward to attending the Bold Eagle and Black Bear graduations next month. Now, as General Eyre mentioned, after 6 years away, I'm coming home to the Canadian Army. And make no mistake, that home is exceptionally busy and faces multiple challenges, now more than ever. We must simultaneously reconstitute, deliver excellence on operations, and modernize the Canadian Army for the future. We're involved in operations around the world, specifically and most notably with our multinational brigade in Latvia, Canada's largest foreign military deployment and the cornerstone of our nation's contribution to the NATO alliance. As the primary force generator for the Canadian Armed Forces, we must be able to attract, recruit, and retain the people we need to meet the demands of today and tomorrow. To do this, we will continually and collectively adapt and evolve our culture to become more inclusive and diverse. We must likewise accelerate our modernization, including how we train, how we equip our people, and how we manage our resources to ensure that the Canadian Army remains ready, resilient, and relevant. Demonstrating our capacity to evolve and to deliver is absolutely critical for our institution. And there are key elements such as procurement, infrastructure, and digital transformation where outside collaboration is key. And I'll be seeking the support of partners in the defense team and other government departments to navigate the machinery of government and address these challenges. An important part of my role will be working with you to make sure it is clear what our priorities are, why we need what we need, and how it will help us do what we do. Defend Canada, protect Canadians, and work with our allies and partners to defend the rules-based international order. It is only through working together with this wider team that we will be able to successfully deliver on the government's key objectives laid out in our North Strong and Free, to strengthen the foundations of the Canadian Armed Forces and acquire new capabilities to deal with emerging threats. Il y a de nombreux défis, mais j'accepte ce rôle avec détermination et confiance. Pourquoi? L'armée canadienne est une institution nationale vitale. The Canadian Army is a vital national institution. We are strong, proud, and ready. Within the Army, that strength and pride comes from our incredible talent, exceptional intellect, and a fighting spirit. The challenge ahead of us is enormous, but we have an amazing One Army team. Regular force, reserve force, Canadian Rangers, and defense team civilians. And I will do everything to make sure this team is ready. Chief Warrant Officer Robin and I are committed to continuing the work of leaders before us, to be the strongest possible advocates for our soldiers and their families, and to strengthen your Canadian Army. Distinguished guests, friends, in closing, I am humbled to be granted the privilege of commanding the Canadian Army, and I cannot wait to get started. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Merci, mon général. The ADC will now present flowers to Lieutenant General Wright. Spaz. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Royal Anthem.
Guard! Salut royal! Présentez! Out!
Please remain standing for the departure of the Chief of the Defense Staff, General Eyre, and Lieutenant General Paul. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez rester debout pour le départ du commandant de l'armée canadienne, le lieutenant-général Wright.
Garde! Salut général! Présentez! Armes! Garde! À l'école! Armes!
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the departure of the Eagle Staff.
March off the Eagle Staff!
Mesdames et messieurs, this concludes the Canadian Army Change of Command ceremony. Ceci conclut la cérémonie de passation de commandement de l'armée canadienne. Je voudrais remercier the Governor General Foot Guard and the Ceremonial Band Guard for the prestation this afternoon. Je voudrais aussi également remercier le régiment de Hull de nous avoir accueillis dans leur maison aujourd'hui. Merci. There is a small reception after the ceremony and guests will be invited at the mess. Il y a une petite réception pour les invités.